I'm going to show you guys how and when to use cells in MATLAB. Well, cells can be used and manipulated in many ways. From any given matrix or Excel spreadsheet data, cells can be called individually or in different various groups, such as column vectors, row vectors, or even a subsection of that specified area on the matrix. I'm going to show you guys how to do all of these with the same sample data given in an Excel sheet. Well, first we begin by importing the Excel data straight into MATLAB by going to File, Import Data, and then you just look for your file. Ours is right here. And you click on Next. Here we have a few options on whether we would want the data as an augmented matrix, which would be a 80 by 4, 80 rows, 4 columns, or individual column vectors with score 1, score 2, change, and active, as seen here. Score 1, score 2, change, and active as individual column vectors. I will show only the augmented way, but the individual column vector way is essentially the same thing. So here we go. We click on Create Variables Matching Preview. So we click on Finish. So if we now look in our workspace over here, we should have an 80 by 4 matrix designated as data. So in our case, our data revolves around active. So active could either be 1 or 2. And through these two given points, when active is only 1, it deals with a certain amount of augmented matrix, which is just this area. So as we can see, it starts from 2 to 41, which when we import, it's not going to count this first row, so it's just going to be 1 to 40. So we could work from there. We go back to here, and if we would just want to do when active equals 1, we could designate anything. Let's just say active underscore 1 equals our entire data, and from this we want all 4 columns and we want all the rows from 1 to 40. So we go 1 through 40 and all 4 columns, so 1 through 4, and this should spit out our entire active region. And we could check this by looking at the last term, 8711. We go back to here. Our last term should indeed be 8711. So this shows that we did this correctly. I would suggest that you shouldn't suppress any of your matrices until you know they're correct for sure. So now, let's say we want to take this a little further. Let's say we want to break these up all into individual column vectors. We have score 1, score 2, change, and active. Score 1 is in the column vector 1 of our augmented. So if we want to designate that, we would have to do score. I'm just going to call it score 1. You can call it whatever you like. Score 1 equals our original active 1. We want all of row 1 through 40, but we only want the first column, so we just write 1. And this should spit out all the first column. And then again, you could check this by scrolling up and looking at this. And all of it should match, all from here, from all the way down here, and it does. Now let's say we would like to go even further and know the specific value at a given place in the augmented column vector that we just created. So let's go to our Excel data sheet. On row 6, the value is 10. Let's try to get that through MATLAB. And on MATLAB, this would be row 5 instead of 6 because this first row, once again, isn't added. So what we would do is we designate this as a value which equals the score 1 column vector, and we want row 5. And at this point, it doesn't really matter if you write 1 or a colon, you'll just designate all the columns, which in this case is only 1, so you could even just write 1. And we press enter, and it should give us a value of 10 as it showed earlier over here. And that is how to do everything on MATLAB with cells.